So we're gonna make drop cookies. We're gonna start the oven at 400 degrees. Our ingredients are 2 cups of flour, 4 eggs, half a cup of vegetable oil, half a cup of regular sugar, and then 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and then 2 teaspoons of extract. And you could use almond or anise, or if you don't have extract, you could even just put like sambuca in there. Traditionally, it's with anise for the Italian drop cookies, but some people don't like that licoricey taste, so go ahead and use almond. First thing that I'm going to add is the half a cup of sugar, half a cup of oil, and the 4 eggs, and then the extract. You can see I already cracked open the eggs, so then this way, if you get a shell in there, you don't have to fish it out from the whole mix, so I do that first. Half a cup of oil. And half a cup of sugar, and 2 teaspoons of whatever extract that you would like. From there, you simply start to mix those ingredients together till they're all blended, and then the next thing that we'll do is add the dry ingredients. And I put the baking soda, the 2 teaspoons, right in with the 2 cups of flour and mix that together first before I add it. So I have my blender on low, and I'm just going to start shifting in the flour nice and slowly. And if you notice that it's getting too thick as you're blending, you don't have to use all of the flour. And this is fully mixed, and as you can see, it's still kind of gooey, and you want that consistency because we're going to be dropping it onto the sheets, hence the drop cookie name. And you want it to expand a little bit and not stay in a perfect ball. If your dough ends up being too runny, you can just shift in some more flour. Again, do it little by little and just try to get it together a little bit more so it's not runny, but again, still a little bit gooey. And you want to put a spoon in there and just make sure that it's sticking to the spoon and it doesn't just run right on off. So we're still a little bit too gooey, so I'm going to add some more flour in there. Okay, so I added more flour, and now you can see my dough is sticking to my spoon. And that's where we want it to be, where we could form a little circle on the spoon and it will stay there. The technique with the spoon is going to be a little bit harder, so let me find a place for my phone for you. All right. So I'm going to take a little bit onto the spoon, and then all I do here is I'm going to make a little circle with it. So I'm going to keep putting it through the spoon till it forms a little ball. And then I'm just going to take the ball and plop it off and drop it onto this sheet. And try to make sure it's not super flat, that there's still some volume to it. They will expand, so you don't have to make them too big. They can just be little tiny dumplings, and try to get them as upright as you can. And again, if you're doing this and you notice it's just like a puddle on the baking sheet, then you could just add more flour. And that flour is going to depend a lot on how big your eggs are. So if you're using large eggs instead of medium ones or extra large eggs, you're going to have to add some more flour to your mix. And we'll just repeat throughout here, again, leaving space in between because they're going to expand. And this is also the time if you wanted to add cherries to it, nuts to it, any type of fillings, you can mix it in. You could also add food dye if you want to be festive and make them different colors. Once we get them onto the baking sheet, the next thing that we're going to do is pop them in the oven, and you only have to put them in for about 8 to 10 minutes. They're going to get a little bit brown at the bottom part of it, And oh, I didn't specify, but you do want to grease the sheet before you put them on, or they're going to be hard to get off. So they're going to get that little brown ring around the bottom of it. And once you see that, take them out. Don't let them get brown all the way around. And then after that, we're going to add the icing. So for the icing, there's a variety of things you can do. This is 1 cup of powdered sugar now, and I'm just gonna add 1 tablespoon of water and start to mix that up. As I mix it up, you're gonna see if you're gonna need more water or not, but do it little by little. So it's starting to form, and it's a little hard with my flash on, but it's starting to form a ball. There we go. So this ball in the middle is that icing. And I'm going to add a little bit more water here, and then I'm also going to add a teaspoon of the extract. And you can do vanilla if you want, almond, you can stick with the anisette. It's kind of up to you what flavor pairings that you want to do. Let it focus, and you can see it's starting to turn into a frosting. But again, don't add too much water. It seems like it's not enough, but just keep blending it because you want it to be kind of not too runny, or it'll just go right off the cookie. You want it a little bit thicker consistency. If you don't want to use water, you can also use milk here. And my personal favorite, I like to melt down some Crisco and then add it in, and it gives it really rich flavor. Okay, so I added a little bit more water. So now that frosting is a little bit more mobile, and that's what we want, so we could spread it. Again, it's not super runny, but it's thick that it's moving around now. The nice thing about working with the frosting like this is that if you add too much water, you just add more sugar. And then also, as you're working, it starts to stiffen up a little bit, and if it's hard to spread it, all you have to do is add a little more water to it, and that will get it so it's elasticy, so you can move it around again. Okay, so our cookies are about done, and you can see the tops are still really light, but around the bottom edge, it starts to get that little brown circle, and we only want to get them to that point. And you could see I made pretty little blobs, but they poofed up pretty nicely. So we're gonna transfer them onto a cooling rack, and I like to put wax paper underneath and keep it in a tray. And the reason is I'm gonna frost it and sprinkle it, and the sprinkles get everywhere, and the frosting's a pain when it hardens. So this just saves you a headache later that you don't really have to clean up. So they move pretty easily on the cooking tray. They shouldn't be stuck to it. And you can see the bottoms are just a nice little starting to brown, but not too burnt. And I probably even left them in for a few seconds longer than normal, but you still want them pretty light. It's just that brown circle around the bottom. Okay, so the next part, I like to use a little brush, but you can use a spoon, or you can just pour it right from the thing, totally up to you. And I'm just gonna brush that frosting on. I let them cool for a few minutes, and I just kind of dab it on the top and let it run down the sides. And you can make it, again, a little bit thicker if you don't want it as runny, but I put the wax paper underneath, so I don't really mind. And then it dries a lot easier because it's not so thick. And I had put the anise flavoring in this as well, so it just gives it a little extra kick to the cookies. Once we do a couple of these, we're going to then make sure that they don't dry all the way, and you could put the sprinkles on it. So I had already done different flavors, so I'm gonna just go with green, and this is gonna let me know, and just sprinkle it lightly and it'll stick. The traditional one here are these little colorful balls, and that is the traditional topping on it, but you could put any one that you'd like. And here's our finished product, and they should be nice and airy, so if you bite in, tasty.